again, thank you for joining this session and welcome to Voices of Lyme, Insights into Life with a Communication Disability. This is one in a series of different panel discussions we're having that allow us to take a deeper dive into different disabilities and really hear about the experiences of our network members who live with these different disabilities. So we're glad so many of you could join us today. My name is Renee Forsyth. I'm the Director of Professional Development, and I'm so pleased to be with you here and kicking off this session. Because we thought this dialogue was so important, we did make this open to the public this session. So there may be some of you who are joining who are not that familiar with Lyme Connect. So I'd like to just take a moment to tell you a little bit more about us. Lyme Connect is a not-for-profit organization, and our focus and our mission is to rebrand disability through achievement. We do that by attracting, preparing, and connecting high potential professionals and university students, including veterans, who have all different types of disabilities for scholarships, leadership programs, internships, and full-time careers with the world's leading corporations. Our corporate partners, which I know many of you joining us today are from our corporate partners, so welcome. In turn, we also support our corporate partners in recruiting, onboarding, developing, retaining, and promoting all employees who have disabilities. So if you are joining us and you're a person with a disability, I encourage you to join our network and take advantage of all the different benefits that are available as a Lyme Connect network member. If you are not an individual with a disability, I encourage you to join as a friend of Lyme, and you will receive information about all that's going on with Lyme Connect. You will receive information about future sessions, future Voices of Lyme sessions that you can join. So I'm thrilled to welcome you all today, and I will like to introduce our moderator. I'd like to welcome George Daquila, who is an engineering manager at Google. George is also a Lyme network member and a longtime friend of Lyme and supporter of the work that we do, and we appreciate all of that. George often speaks on the topic of owning your disability narrative and is an active member of the Google Disability and Stuttering employee resource groups. George is also the treasurer for Friends Who Stutter, which is the National Association for Young People Who Stutter. So we're thrilled to have George with us today moderating this discussion. I'd like to welcome him to the webinar and turn it over to him to hear more about his experiences and the experiences of our panelists. So welcome, George.
Awesome. Thank you, Renee. Hi, everybody. My name is George Daquila. I'm a person who stutters. I've stuttered all my life. I also have ADHD. I just found that one out last year. That's another story. I'm a white male with brown hair and a mostly brown beard, just a little bit of gray, and I wear glasses. Yeah, so I've worked with Lyme for years now. Awesome organization, and when Renee asked me how to do this, the answer was an obvious yes. Yeah, so I manage an engineering team at Google. I've been at Google for about 18 months. I was at Goldman Sachs for 6 years prior, also doing engineering. That's my kind of recent work. Yeah, so my background, and I'm going to mostly focus on disability. As I mentioned, I've stuttered all my life. For the first 26, 27 years, I never really talked about it, and I just acted like it was not there, and that was not a good strategy. So that did not work well. I just became more and more anxious. And then when I was in graduate school in my late 20s, I really hit the bottom and got a therapist, reconnected with my speech therapist, therapist who I loved. Yeah, and just started working. And like, now over a decade later, and like, it's still work. But I can do this type of a thing. I love it. I would always just like to emphasize that the journey was long, right? It wasn't that I was just instantly this comfortable talking about stuttering and about my own disabilities. It was a long journey, and why I do this is to generate community and to help others in their journey. Yeah, so that's me. I do all kinds of advocacy work at Google, inside and out. Yeah, let's get started though. So I'm gonna pass it off to Mina Kashi to go over her intro, and then she'll hand it off to the next panelist. So yeah, do you want to go, Mina?
Yes. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to meet you. My name is Mina. I'm a software engineer at Microsoft. I started to stutter at the age of 5, and I think my story is quite similar to George's. I did not talk about it much. I think I was so ashamed of it that I did not seek help. I just went through it. By the way, I am a Indian brown woman with brown hair, and I'm wearing a brown jacket right now. Yep. And yeah, I think for me, the turning point was when I joined college, and I learned more about accommodations and how I could sort of use them to be more comfortable at work. And then I learned more about organizations like Lime, who helped me to sort of advocate for myself. So that's when things really started to change for me. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here on this panel and share the strategies that have worked for me, and just share more about myself. Thank you.
Awesome. Let's pass it off to Andrew next.
Hi, everyone. Thanks again for Lime Connect for having me. Thanks, George. Thanks, Mina. My name is Andrew Stewart. I work at Rogers Communications, and I am white, tall, brown, black hair. I'm clean shaven, and I'm wearing a blue shirt if you can see it. I have autism, ADD, ADHD, OCD, Tourette syndrome, and severe learning disabilities with anxiety. On top of that, I also slur over my words and speak very fast. So if you can't understand me, if you're talking to me, don't be afraid to slow me down or tell me to repeat myself, because I'm open to it. Any feedback is good feedback. I started speaking very fast when I was young. I was very hard to understand. Tried many speech classes. That didn't quite work. work. If it didn't work, speech therapy never was really my thing, even though we tried it for many years. Getting into school, going to school, and getting jobs have never been an issue in speech, but I've always been very open about it. So working with Rogers is great for me because they're very accommodating. They understand me. And essentially, it's been a dream come true.
Awesome. Thank you, and Drew. And let's go to our last awesome panelist, Angelica.
Audio description. I am an Afro-Latina. I have box braid. I'm wearing a bow. My shirt is majority blue, but it's kind of like flower details in my background. It's a spring-like background. So because I really like the spring. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Angelica Vega. She, her, hers, and I'm a data management associate at JPMorgan Chase. Prior to my role, I was a part of their corporate analyst development program, in which I developed skills around process improvement, project management, and analytical skills. When I was young, I was diagnosed with a communication impairment by my doctor. My parents first privately put me into speech therapy before my father's insurance company removed that service. As a result, they enrolled me into the New Jersey Special Education Program. I will say that in nearly every space I occupied growing up, my communication disability was very much treated as the pink elephant in the room. I was taught to hide my communication disability from others as much as possible, as if I should be ashamed of it. And my goal should get to the point of sounding, quote unquote, just like the other kids. Sometimes I felt like whenever I failed myself or others' expectations of me, my essence got slowly ripped away. Due to reasons I don't want to get into today, I left the special education program in the middle of my primary education. Despite still having a communication disability, I tried to hide it away, refusing to acknowledge it for the remainder of my primary education. The topic of my communication disability got brought back up during college when I disclosed a experience I had with my Mayor Ward's advisor. Renee, if you're listening, I don't believe I told you this before, but my Mayor Ward's advisor was the one who recommended me that I apply to the Lyme Connect Fellowship Program. Regardless of my accepted status, applying there was definitely the start of my journey to unlearn all of the internalized ableism I carry with me over the years and start loving my voice as well as myself. I remember when I attended the leadership symposium in New York City, I met a wonderful fellow named Barbara. We share our story to each other and bond over our shared area of disability. I didn't feel alone anymore. And on top of that, I have a community that has my back. I'm finally at a place where I don't have to hide my disability and I can explore my essence without shame or judgment. Currently, I am a advisory council member at Communication First, a nonprofit organization dedicated to protecting and advancing the civil rights of people with speech and communication related disability. And I am loving every second of it. I know that we'll be diving into everybody's journeys throughout this 1 hour call today, but thank you so much for listening to my story.
Awesome. Thank you, Angelica. And we're only 1 minute over time. And as a group with speech disabilities, that is amazing. You're getting a group of individuals who stutter to try to like stop talking and like do something else is nearly impossible. So it's awesome that we're actually right on time here. So I'm very impressed with all of us. Yeah, so the overall flow here is we're gonna do some prepared questions for the next little bit under half an hour, and then we'll leave 15 minutes at the end for audience questions. Yeah, whenever we met to prep, we had a real like nice flow of like, you know, early life, hiding your disability, all the shame, and then the journey to be open, and specifically what's that like in the workplace. I will chat a little bit about accommodations, and then my all-time favorite topic, what about our disability has really made us awesome. So love that one. So yeah, so let's start with, and I want everybody to answer this. How does your disability impact your work life? So how does it impact you in a professional setting and personally, if you want to like talk about that also? So for this, why don't we start with Angelica, since she just went.
Perfect. Generally speaking, my communication skill did improve over the years, especially when I become adult, but I still encounter some day-to-day challenges. For example, I sometimes pause or get stuck with a word. This occurrence actually happened recently when I was trying to say my friend's name in public. I felt like the word was trying to escape my mouth, but nothing came out, and it kind of hurt a bit. My communication disability does not impact me professionally now, since I'm currently in a non-intensive speaking role. Despite this, I do have to speak from time to time. Currently, a colleague and I are basically project managers for a big initiative. We host a weekly call with some of our involved parties. My colleague and I usually meet a day before the call to discuss about what we would talk about in advance and notify me if I have anything, if I have like if I have to say anything. I really appreciate my colleague for making sure that I'm well prepared in advance and for the meetings in which I have a speaking part in.
Awesome. Thank you. Andrew, want to go next?
Thanks, Angelica. Thanks, George. Yeah, so professionally, my speech doesn't quite impact me because I do all chat-based support. Now, I do talk to many employees quite often. I sometimes trip over my words, or I speak too fast, or I slur my words, and they may not understand what I'm saying. But again, I prep them when I first meet them. Don't be afraid to slow me down. Don't be afraid to tell me to repeat myself. And personally, I would say it's just more, again, slowing down and being ready to repeat myself. I mean, like, I know my speech isn't perfect, but lucky for Rogers and professionally, they've been very accommodating as far as not taking phone calls and essentially just strictly chat.
Awesome. Mina, you want to go next, and then I'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so my stutter manifests in a lot of different ways. So I think a lot of times it's just like long pauses. Sometimes it's just like stuttering on the first letter of the word. And then if I'm feeling too stressed out, it can worsen. So it's a lot of different factors that go into it. And then it does affect my personal and professional life to an extent. But I just feel so grateful to have some good friends, a good family, and a good work environment where people are very patient with me. they know about my stutter, and they seem to make me feel comfortable about this. I think the number one thing what I need as a person who stutters is just patience, and just don't try to look away from me, look me in the eye when you talk. And yeah, I think it does impact my personal and professional life. But I have been very fortunate to find people who uh, 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 who have been very inclusive. I mean, this is the bare minimum we should have, but you know, everybody, but it is not like that. Some people, they just don't know how to react when they see somebody who stutters. So I try my best to educate them sometimes, but for the most part, it's been a good experience. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Mina. And I'll just say a couple words about how my stutter impacts me in the office. I mean, and there's a very stark difference from early in my life when I was in graduate school, and like I would very much shy away and try to get out of any speaking situation, whether it was a presentation or it was casual. And like I was not like out with my stuttering, so that made it very, very hard to have those conversations with my like PhD advisor and all that. I just wasn't explaining it, and so it just really made things tougher. And fast forward to now, where I am out and I talk endlessly. I mean, how I deal with it in the office is really what everyone else said. It's all about disclosure and like trust, right? It's like I trust my colleagues, I trust my managers to be patient, and everybody really has been. And what I've really noticed is this hunger to like understand and so support me. And I just, once I opened up, I just got so many questions. Oh, hey, what should I do whenever you stutter? Want me to wait? Want me finish your sentences? And I just love those conversations, and it's really enriched all those relationships. And I will get into that at the end. So yeah, so let's go on to the next question. And what I want to ask is, like, you know, what was the driver that made you comfortable to disclose in the workplace? Was it like out of necessity? Was it because something like you wanted? and then, like, what was the indication that it was psychologically safe to talk about your disability? And who wants to start? Andrew raised his hand.
Thanks for the question, George. So I've always been very open about my speech or communication disorder, speech stuttering, stuttering over words, tripping over words, speaking too fast. Ever since I was in school, I've always, since day one in school, my parents and sister have been very accommodating, very amazing, at educating others and helping me out. So essentially, ever since I was small, we've always had that awareness that don't hold anything back, like disclose everything. When I applied to Rogers back in 2018, I told them right away, I have a speech disorder or a speaking disorder. I slur my words. Like, you may have to repeat me. You may have to, and not understand me. But everybody's been really open, and everybody's really accepting.
Awesome. I mean, oh, that's so cool. You've always had that comfort to disclose. Mina or Angelica?
Yeah, can try to share a little bit. So for me, I think I didn't have a choice but to disclose my stutter is like quite in the moderate to severe range. So you will know that I do stutter. But like, actually, there was a time in my college where at my first internship interview, I just like tried to hide my stutter so much that I didn't talk much at all. And then they just like basically thought that I could not speak English. So that was very like strange. Because I can't speak English, but I just stutter. So I think that experience was a very changing one for me. And I thought that like, if I keep trying to hide my stutter, I'm not going to be able to do much. So from that time, I just tried to like let the interviewers know from starting that I do have a stutter. And then if I'm too stressed, it can be worse. So please be patient with me. And then sometimes I ask them to like, can I just type instead of speaking? So yeah. So for me, the most driver was that anyways, they all could see me stuttering, so why not just get help for it? Why not accept it and just see what kind of accommodations that like I could get. Most of my accommodations. They are not like any tool what I use. It's just mostly typing sometimes, and just your patience and just willingness to listen to me. So yeah, I think the driver for me was that I just wanted to feel more comfortable and get the tools I needed to succeed, basically. Yeah.
Awesome. And Angelica, do you want to add anything here, or if you just want to wait for the next one?
Yeah, I can wait.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to add with me, like, what was the factors, and like as I mentioned, like coming out of graduate school, I was kind of on this disclosure journey, and so my first job was at Bloomberg, and I disclosed in the interviews, but I didn't really like talk about it at the office much afterwards. The real like turning point was when I interviewed with Goldman, and I was like, all right, screw it, I'm gonna like talk about stuttering in every interview, and with managers, I'm gonna really and invite them to ask me questions. I'm going to be just really open with it, and it went so well, and I was able to kind of like turn my stuttering story into an asset, and I was like, oh, this was awesome. And the managers that interviewed me like loved it. They would like ask me more questions, and it was really like a place of strength in that like in those interviews. That's because I was like, I very much owned it, right? I said, hey, I stutter, so as I talk, I will stutter. That's what it is. If you want to ask me anything, ask way. I have some very good stories around it, and when they asked, it was just such a good conversation. I was like, I want to keep this up, and that's kind of what started my advocacy work, and just really like drove me to be out so much more. So yeah, so now we want to shift into accommodations. And I know Mina mentioned a little bit with her. And I'm gonna ask everyone again, for me, accommodations is just that I can say to everyone, hey, I stutter, so as I talk, I will stutter. I'm really good at it is my awesome joke that makes everybody laugh in an uncomfortable way. So it's always good. Yeah. So I will turn it over to Angelica to start us off with accommodations.
Thank you. Well, I'm actually going to speak more on the matter from like a student experience, since I recently graduated from school in 2020. I believe I mentioned this in my introduction. I didn't have accommodation after the special education program. I was unable to afford the cost of having a therapist to sign the required paperwork for accommodation due to my father's insurance. To be honest, this isn't a common case for Black students. According to the Commonwealth Fund in 2016, nearly 1 out of every 4 Black Americans lack a stable source of healthcare, as opposed to 1 out of 5 white Americans. Additionally, Black Americans who do have access to some form of healthcare are repeatedly burdened with limited access to different services, as well as a general lack of high quality care. All of my accommodations were official. I often disclose my disability with my professors privately. Some of the accommodations include prior multiple options to get participation points and offer more time to speak when I need to present. I thank God that I have an amazing professor who really cares for their students. But at the same time, this shouldn't just come down to the luck in terms of whatever a professor is willing to work with me or not. I really believe in the concept of universal design, which refer to a design that's accessible to people regardless of age, disability, or other factors. Just think of it as an environment that is built with accessibility as the default. Many multi-modularized people I know can't afford a medical diagnosis to various social economic factors. We should all strive to make the environments that we occupy as inclusive and welcoming as possible in order to help others thrive. And one of the avenues is to remove barriers.
Awesome. Thank you, Angelica. Why don't we do one more answer on this one, so we have time for the last question and to take the audience questions. So Mina or Andrew, which one of you I would like to speak more? All right, Andrew. Sure.
Mina, do you want to go or do you want me to go? Okay. Yeah, so for me, accommodations have just been more like typing, chatting on like over for employee support technology instead of having to do phone calls. I do a lot of phoning. I do a lot of calling employees, coffee breaks, virtual coffees, lunches, and a lot of time I'll tell them right away to slow me down, or they'll calm me down, or they'll say, Andrew, get too excited, calm down. And I'm like, okay, no worries. And again, I don't take it personally. Any feedback is good feedback for me. So I'm always open. If I'm talking too fast or you can't understand me, just tell me to slow down. I'll pause and slow down.
Awesome. That was a very quick answer. I mean, and like, I just want to highlight what you're really saying is like you have such self-awareness, and like, you know, I think that's just such a incredible quality that is not easy, right? It isn't easy.
Exactly.
I'll look at yourself and say, hey, I'm good at this and I'm just not good at this other stuff, and here's what's gonna happen. I mean, and like, I am convinced that makes you just awesome at your job.
Thank you. And lots of the time it's someone cueing me or telling me that I'm speaking too fast. It's not always me realizing it, but at least telling them I speak fast and they can understand it from there.
Awesome. Yeah, so on this topic, what about your disability and your journey has made you better at your job and just like better with your colleagues? I have a comment on this, but I'll turn this over to Mina if you want to comment.
Sure. I think my disability has made me patient, and at the same time, I have a lot of empathy for people, because I am a person with a disability. I do understand the challenges that do come with it. So it's just made me more empathetic. And then at the same time, I don't know if it's a bad thing or not a good thing, but I do try to work very, very hard to make sure that my disability is not sort of affecting my work or anything. So I think I have a very good work ethic. So yeah, so I think we have like both strengths and weaknesses. But I think the main thing to note is that disability has made me who I am today. I think my stutter has just taught me so much about the world, and just like given me a different perspective. Whenever I'm like just coding software, the like some of the first things that come to my mind is that am I designing this with accessibility, because I have that experience. I can think of such things. So yeah, definitely has given me a more different perspective in life.
Awesome. Thank you, Mina. I'm just going to say a couple words and then let's get into the audience questions, because I see that there's quite a lot there. Yeah, and like, I just want to echo on the empathy angle that Mina mentioned. I mean, and for me as a manager, whenever I talk about my stuttering and about those experiences, I mean, it very quickly builds trust, right? Because I mean, all of us have no other option but to be vulnerable, right? We got to say, hey, here's the deal. Here's the way that I speak. And that honesty like really earns respect and trust. So it can like accelerate relationships, which is awesome. And it can really help. I mean, and just all those life experiences that Mina mentioned, just like, there's a lot to overcome, and that makes us all just so much stronger, just and resilient. So I'm gonna let Renee join here and ask us questions from the audience.
Great. Thank you all so much. There's so much information that you've shared, and we appreciate everything that you shared. You're probably seeing all of the questions popping up and lots of positive affirmations in the chat. Because there's a lot of information, I'm going to try and consolidate some of these questions and see how many we can get through. There's a lot of interest around accommodations, disclosure, both in the interview process and in the workplace. Some questions about what documentation was necessary, what technology was helpful for you in the workplace. And so I think some of that's been answered throughout the session. So I'll ask sort of generally, there are comments about bringing your whole self to work, disclosure to ensure success, releasing the negativity. So you'll see some of that in the chat. But as you've all kind of indicated, this is a journey, right? Everybody's on their own personal journey about disclosure and talking about their disability. So for those who might be joining who are still, concerned about talking about their disability, that there'll be judgment, there's still that fear for them, what advice might you have for them? Go ahead, Andrew.
I would just say be your authentic self. A good employer is not going to judge you based on a communication disorder, speech impediment, whatever you want to call it. They're going to judge you based on your work. They're not going to judge you based if you're autism, OCD like I do. They're going to judge you based on what your performance can do and play to your strengths, live to your weaknesses. Roger's very big on this. I'm very big on this. I'm being myself and being my authentic self. Don't try to hide who I am. Don't try to pretend, but live to your strengths and play to your weaknesses.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome. And I mean, like, I just want to add a disclosure and accommodations can, like, vary much differently to like, formal accommodations and just, hey, I stutter, so I need you to know that. And what I've really found, like, as an employee is that my managers want me to do well, right? Like, that's their job. So like, if I disclose with them and it's just out there, it's a lot easier for them to actually help me grow. So we don't have to like dance around my disability, right? And like, also as a manager, like my top priority is to grow my people, right? And when they're honest with me about where they want to grow and what their gaps are, it is so much easier to help them. I can say, oh, all right, I understand this now. Let's work on this. So just as as Andrew said, being yourself really helps. Anyone else? Yes.
This is Angelica speaking. And I've in this, to be honest, I am like an open book to the point where people probably know my story after speaking with me for 10 minutes. But I think disclosure is like really important. I personally disclose during the interview process. My journey up to this point, I want to, like, during the interview process, this is like a really great window into like the company and culture. And I want to say one particular experience and the reason why I ended up, joining JP Morgan Chase. One of my favorite interviews was when I was doing the Lime Connect Super Day interview. One of my first interviewer was like a JP Morgan Chase recruiter named Megan. I generally felt that we only did like 5 minutes of actual interview question before we're just talking about our life stories and shared interests. She really made me feel comfortable and welcome, and she opened up a window for me to meaningfully and generally express myself. And I think like that is a great indication of of the work culture. So I knew throughout my talks with her throughout the years and her mentorship, I definitely knew I wanted to start working for JP Morgan Chase. So I think disclosure is really important. And I know personally for me, it really helped guide on my career journey.
Thanks, Angelica. I think that's a great lead into this next question, because this is an example of what is your best piece of advice for someone who would like to be an ally to anyone with a speech or communication disability? Nina, do you have any thoughts you want to share on that one? And then we can go to Andrew.
Yeah, I think one of the strongest piece of advice is to just listen to people with disabilities. Don't assume things. And I guess just try to do your research. I know in like the past, some people have like just assumed that like because I take some time to speak, I may not be that smart enough. I might not be a good coder. So yeah, but like these are just stereotypes. It's not true. So so just like do your research, if you don't want to talk to that person directly, do a simple search on the web. You can find many authentic sources of like information on people with disabilities, the misconceptions, the stereotypes. Yeah, so my biggest piece of advice, just don't assume things. Go with a very open mind. Yeah.
Thanks, Andrew.
I would say one big for stuttering I know is don't interrupt, wait for the person to finish. For me, I do appreciate when I'm able to finish and then being asked to repeat, that's fine. But it's easier as an ally if you say I can't understand after I'm talking, before then during the talking, having me repeat the whole thing, not as part of it.
Thanks, Andrew. One of the things I'll just mention about being an ally is to share the information you're learning here. When you get the recording to this session, share it with your team. It shows that you are increasing your own personal awareness around disability. It opens up that dialogue with your team. So that's just one way. And as you continue to join us for future sessions, you can also share those with your team and encourage them to join as well. Okay, so a question, we only have a couple minutes. I'm going to try and get to as many as I can. What are some of the strategies
Can I
that
make
you're
one
leveraging?
comment?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to comment that like as an ally, I can be really, really hard because like you can't say to somebody, oh, hey, notice that you stutter. Want to like talk about that? That's gonna really be awkward. And one thing that I've noticed with my advocacy journey, that like me just being out with my own stuttering has created psychological safety for others to come to me. Like I've met individuals who I've never like talked to who have reached out and were like, oh, hey, I want to like talk with you, and then they like, you know, come out of me as gay with other disabilities. And I mean, it's awesome. And it's just like, I don't know how else to get that, to show the allyship. So like the psychological safety, like I just like disclosing anything, just like show that you're a person, really lets others feel safe with you. Thanks, Renee.
Renee, I was wondering if I can add a other advice for allyship?
Sure.
Yeah, with allyship, and I know that in companies general, like there's a big initiative around like recruiting people with disabilities, but on an ally perspective, also look us up, try to connect us with different like opportunities, especially in leadership roles. And then if you're on like the hiring community, like the hiring committee, or if you're in positions where you're making the job posting, especially for like high level roles, like definitely look at like the requirements. For example, like I know that sometimes like in the requirement, they say like you need public speaking, even though like the role doesn't really require that much public speaking. Like definitely target, like, definitely address like barriers that like, people disability like, may face, and making sure that the job posting like, is very inclusive to as many people as possible.
Thanks, Angelica. We are at 1 o'clock. We could go for another hour, I'm sure, but so much great information was shared here. I do want to highlight that stay tuned, because we are launching a new Lyme Connects community platform in the very near future, and we will be able to have groups like this where you talk and share about some of the accommodations, some of your own techniques. So that will be a really valuable resource. So I encourage you to keep an eye on that. George, did you want to say something before we say goodbye to everybody?
No, just thanks a lot. And I mean, I really love the disability community, and like joining it has really changed my life. So this is just really awesome work that you do, Renee. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, George, for moderating this discussion. Mina, Andrew, Angelica, thank you for being so candid and sharing
Thanks for
all your
having me.
experiences and insights. It was amazing. We will share out the link, and meanwhile, everyone have a good day and look for our next session and join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.